the life and the career that I want.
You know, Trina, PCU's never been in the Northeast Classic before.
Throughout her life, Trina Robinson had been trying to find a sensation of normality. If she ever had time to catch her breath, it certainly wasn't for long, given all of her art studies, her tumultuous love affair, and the never-ending drama that was unfolding in Port Charles. But then the last thing she expected was a visit from a man who had been long since reduced to an abstract concept. Kai, a throwback from the distant past to embody both love and enigma. The sudden reach out caught her completely by surprise. It began on a winter morn at the Jerome Gallery, where Trina was readying an exhibition that she was to supervise. Except for the subdued thrum of classical music playing over the speakers, the atmosphere was utterly silent. When she was adjusting a lineup of sculptures and was deep in meditation, she heard a voice behind her. "Your love for art is certainly not waned." Trina froze at the sound of the familiar voice, jolting with shock. They widened as they landed on Kai, who stood casually in the doorway. She turned around and looked at him slowly then. He still had that friendly smile, and he was dressed in a leather jacket and pants. But there was a new assurance about their manner that threw Trina off balance. "Is that Kai?" Trina took a breath, a note of incredulity in her voice. "What are you doing here?" A reunion that is full of questions. Kai continued to step further into the display, their eyes sweeping over the artwork before they came back to Trina. "I was wondering if I could pop in while I was in town. I had started to hear that you were making a splash in the art world. It seems like the rumors were spot on." Frozen, Trina, arms crossed, was half impressed and half skeptical as she scanned the scene. "If you understand, this does not answer my question. It has been years since we last communicated with one another. How come now?" Kai chuckled, and a familiar and pleasant sound flowed out. "It is reasonable. So you might say I'm here to reconnect with you, if you will. And maybe to apologize." Trina's brows started to crease. "Will you make amends? Why is that?" For a split second, the unfailingly confident Kai was laced with bewilderment. "Because the way I vanished, for leaving without saying goodbye to the person. I know that I owe you an explanation. Memories and scars from the past." Trina thought back to the summer she had spent with Kai all those years before. They had become close friends in a matter of weeks, a bond forged by their mutual love for the arts and late-night talks about their dreams and worries. Few people actually understood her, and Kai was one of those. And then they vanished as if it had all been some joke, and Trina was left reeling and raw. "You know, I'm not going to lie," she said, her voice still steady but laced with ardent emotion. "Your ghosting me in such a fashion really messed me up mentally. All I knew was that we were onto something, Kai. And then you just disappeared without a trace." Kai had an air of genuine contrition. "It is true. I'm sorry for the pain I have caused you. I had too much going on in my life back then. Things I was not able to process because I did not know how to process them. Running away may have felt like the simplest approach, but it was actually the wrong decision. It is clear to me now." Glancing back, Trina took them in with her emotions swirling in her head. Even though she wanted to really be angry and interrogate him, she still cared about Kai a little. "So, what exactly has moved? So why expire back here now?" "A covert plan at work." Kai sighed and ran fingers through their hair. "Reconnecting is part of a larger picture. Trina, your help is needed." To strengthen her defenses, she raised an eyebrow of the line. "Help with what exactly?" The way Kai scanned the gallery was as though it were to see who might be paying attention. They stepped closer and began speaking more quietly. I have gotten involved in something that is going to be complicated. Also, I think it relates to Port Charles. Trina grimaced at the riddle and rolled her eyes. What do we actually mean when we refer to something as complicated? Kai hesitated before saying, let us say somehow I stumbled upon something these certain powers do not want me to know. I cannot share details now, but I desperately need someone I can depend on. Even now, you are the only person I think about. Forced to choose between trust and doubt. Kai felt a pang of nostalgia for the girl he loved despite how much it stung to hear Trina's arms crossed in front of her. Torn between pulling her guard down and opening her heart up. She was fighting a war between the two. You can't just materialize out of thin air, giving me some vague notice, and expect me to hurry in there and save you. I'm called to more than that. Kai, the poker face, nodded. I get what you mean, and I will tell you everything soon. But right now, I just need to know that you're willing to listen to whatever comes out of my mouth. Trina sighed and ran her fingers through her hair. Kai, you made a lot of requests. I guess I better give you the opportunity to tell me what you think. So maybe I owe it to myself on one hand. You have only one chance. Make sure you don't blow it. Kai grinned, and they looked like the air had finally vented out of them. My word is that I will not. Whispers of old emotions. As they continued to talk, the tension that had been lingering between them faded away, replaced forthwith by the familiar comradely banter. Kai complimented the gallery and asked Trina the most recent things that had transgressed in her life, and listened patiently to her reply. Although Trina was worried she was getting to be too lax, she found out she was becoming more and more strict. The way Kai made her feel seen and known was something she had pined for. At the same time, she could not shake the nagging feeling that their visit meant more than they were letting on. There was a soulful tone to Trina's voice as she said, "You've changed." Kai tilted their head to the side. "Is it a good or bad thing?" "Both," Trina admitted bluntly. "While you're more self-assured, there's something guarded about you. You feels like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders." Kai hesitated, their smile faltering with what could only be weakness, if only for a moment. "I could be right. But to meet you again gives me confidence that I can cope." The unexpected ending. Just when Trina was about to ask more about the situation, the gallery door opened and in walked Spencer Casadilling. As soon as they met, his focus turned to Kai, and he appeared more serious. "We're going to have to change that, Trina," Spencer said, his tone laced with tension. "Who exactly is this?" In an instant, Trina focused on Kai, who seemed to be nervous. "This person's name is Kai. They are longtime companion." Spencer didn't flinch in the slightest. An old friend in it. Which really looks like everything else. How would they show up suddenly? As Kai settled back into his place, he made eye contact with Spencer, calm and confident. "You are Spencer, and you are obvious. You see, I know a great deal about you." The atmosphere in the room was tense, and Trina felt like she was straddling the two sides. "All right, no more staring contest," she murmured, sliding between them. "But it is Kai who has come to speak with me, Spencer. Can we not make this a thing?" But Spencer then surfed his jaw tight and gave a hesitant nod. "That's fine. I will be here to help you if you need my help on the other side." He got up and left, and we went back to Kai, and we could tell that Trina was frustrated. Excellent. So now, I have to deal with that, on top of that. Kai flashed a sardonic smile. "Safe to say that life at Port Charles isn't any easier than I remember it being." "Ew," Trina replied in exasperation, shaking her head. "I think you have no idea. From here on out." The gallery quieted down again as Trina and Kai resumed their conversation where they had left off. The air between them was thick with unspoken emotions and unanswered questions. What secrets was Kai attempting to hide? What sort of influence would their unexpected appearance have on Trina's already appended life? One thing could be said with absolute certainty: this was only the beginning of a narrative guaranteed to leave Port Charles buzzing.
What? Why? Why would that happen?
Prohibited is prohibited. Much life would be on the end of a...
Brennan Langston, a scathing journalist who harbors a grudge against Sonny Corinthos and his family, made his way into Carly Spencer's world, which caused the tension in Port Charles to increase. The circumstance that Carly Spencer found herself in was a difficult one. Since she was in possession of information that had the potential to alter Carly's life in an irreversible manner, she had spent months conducting study on the Corinthos Empire. However, Carly was not the type of person who would not sign off. Not a single object would be caught off guard, no secret would be considered holy, and no sensibility would be protected in the aftermath of this clash. Setting the scene for the occasion. At the Metro Court Hotel, one of the things that was frequent was Carly's habit of high-stepping across the lobby with her distinctive feeling of entitlement. Carly was walking leisurely around the lobby as business people were rushing to go to their meetings, couples were enjoying cocktails in the lounge, and Carly was walking. At the moment when we entered the room, we had just finished dealing with a minor incident that had arisen with a VIP guest. In point of fact, Brennan was donning a stylish black blazer, yet she exuded an air of self-assurance rather than modesty. Her piercing glance swept over the room, and it eventually found its way to Carly. She began to look at her surroundings. Brennan had given careful consideration to the events that were going to take place during this encounter. Therefore, this meeting was not a coincidence. Carly was called out by Brennan, and her voice pierced the background noise like a rapier. Carly turned around, and as soon as she spotted the reporter, the smile that she had been practicing began to go away. She was aware of Brennan's identity and the nature of the challenge she posed. The comment that Carly was making was, "I don't have time for this." She was already going away. Brennan approached her and responded, "Oh, you'll make time," pointing out that he was standing in front of her at the time. "Neither will I," assuming, of course, that you want me to talk to the media and share what I know with them. An allegation that was made. A second sigh was sent out by Carly, who gave the impression of being irritated, but did not exhibit any signs of fear. Using her gesture, she led the way to a secluded area in the lobby, which was the location she requested. "It's acceptable. Take a 5-minute break, because this is you." In the time that they were sitting there, Brennan did not waste any time. Sonny's business, his shipments, his contacts, and his accomplices have all been the focus of my research. Nevertheless, the frequency with which you are addressed by your name is an intriguing aspect. What exactly do you mean? If you could please elaborate. During the time that she was saying it, Carly backed up and folded her arms. "To tell you the truth, my dear, you are barking up the wrong tree with what you are planning to do. I am not going to be with Sonny under any circumstances." It was Brennan's way of sneering. "The fact that I have documented data that contradicts your comments makes that a funny thing to come across. For offshore accounts that are held under names that are traceable back to you and Sonny. In point of fact, it paints a picture that is pretty persuasive." In her eyes, Carly's pupils became more constricted. Whatever it is that you believe you have discovered, it is not what you believe it to be. Furthermore, if you are a shrewd individual, you will stop doing this before you get into such a precarious situation that you won't be able to take a shower. Brennan, on the other hand, gave the impression of being unmoved. Carly, you have been Sunny's guardian for a considerable amount of time. Do you believe that your loyalty is unaffected by anything that may potentially affect it? Because that is not going to happen. At this point, without a doubt. An intelligence fight to the finish. The tone of Carly's voice was subdued but unwavering in its determination as she got closer. Brennan, you need to pay attention. I am familiar with your character. You have the misconception that you are a crusader who is attempting to discover the truth. Your actions are, in point of fact, reckless. In the majority of instances, people that pursue Sunny do not remain in the region in order to publicize their uncoverings. There was no indication that Brennan was flinching. Are you trying to intimidate me? No, we don't, Carly said with a smile that conveyed her determination. I am about to give you a warning. However, there is a distinction between her. There was a head gesture made by Brennan. You're attempting to stay away from us. Is characteristic in nature. On the other hand, Carly, here's the thing. I have no fear for Sunny. In addition to that, I do not have any reason to be afraid of you. The tension between the two women was palpable as they looked at each other and exchanged a gaze. One's own personal belonging. Stake was driven into the ground by Brennan, and she altered her strategy. Additionally, her voice became more low and personal. Yes, I have read a lot of things about you, and they are all true. You, Carly, are one of the survivors standing among us. You have outlasted more than the majority of people can ever fathom. On the other hand, is it an intolerable responsibility to act as Sunny's substitute? Do you have the willingness to give up everything for a man who has brought you so much suffering? Carly's expression quickly registered the surprise, but her demeanor returned to its usual routine after a brief moment of reaction. There is no way, shape, or form that you are familiar with either me or my life. I beg you, for the love of God, to refrain from conducting a psychoanalysis on me. It's possible that I won't, says Brennan. But if there is one thing that I am certain of, it is that Sunny's universe is capable of destroying everybody who enters his circle in some way. However, you are not an exception. Please provide an explanation as to how many more of your rights, freedoms, and dignity you are willing to give up. The question struck Carly more strongly than she had anticipated. She reflected on her children, Michael, Jocelyn, and Donna, and the numerous instances in which they had been treated as if they were simply collateral damage as a result of Sunny's battles. Their decision to bury the concept, on the other hand, was made instantly. I am the one who makes my own choices, Carly stated in a direct manner. In addition, we share the same residence. In light of that, Brennan, what are your thoughts? Are you able to get a good night's sleep despite the fact that you are harming the lives of other people? Similarly, Brennan did not exhibit any delays. If it means telling the truth, then yes, this is something that I say every single night. One of the books, Revelation. For the purpose of retrieving a folder, Brennan dug into her bag. Putting the folder down on the table was her idea. Your opinion on this matter is as follows. Go ahead and do it. Carly eventually allowed herself to open the folder, despite the fact that she had first been hesitant to do so. There were photographs, financial records, and documents contained within that portrayed a devastating picture of Sunny's operations, as well as her alleged role in those operational activities. Brennan stated to Carly, "You've been acting in a very careless manner. You may also say that Sunny has done so. Regardless of what it is, this is sufficient to view the two of you through a different lens. And once they get around to conducting an investigation, the authorities will listen to all that is said. Carly's heart was racing, but she refused to exhibit any signs of it. After reassembling the folder, she shut it and then pushed it back together. The extent of your leverage is being exaggerated. Do you believe that this constitutes conclusive evidence? In the most limited sense, the evidence is circumstantial. The shrug was given by Brennan. It's possible. However, that is plenty to start a fire. If not, then, unless what is the case? The tone that Carly used was one of skepticism. Taking a step closer to the person who was speaking, he continued, "Unless you help me, please provide me with evidence that demonstrates beyond a shadow of a doubt that Sunny was the perpetrator of the crime. It is my responsibility to make sure that you do not become involved in it if you do that." This is one of Carly's options. As Carly considered her choices, she focused her gaze on Brennan. She was aware that the journalist was not faking. The material would not be completely irrefutable, but it would be more than sufficient to cause a great deal of trouble for both her and Sunny. In spite of everything that has been said, it is inconceivable to do so. "Do you seriously believe that I would choose to betray Sunny?" Carly questioned, her tone of voice icy. "You have absolutely no idea who I am," I said. As she gently exhaled, Brennan conveyed her disgust through the expression on her face. "I had anticipated that you would be more intelligent than this. I suppose that loyalty is more important to you than the means by which you can survive." Carly stood up, indicating that the conversation had reached its conclusion. "It is up to you to publish whatever you like. I have been through more difficult circumstances than you have, and I am still here in this world. Try your absolute worst, Brennan." Carly was leaving when Brennan called after her, "This isn't over, Carly." Carly was walking away. In point of fact, not by a long shot. The outcomes that followed. Having wheels, Carly made her way back to her office, while shaking her hands to get the wine out of the glass she was holding. The fact that someone had just saved her life was something she was aware of, but for how much longer? Carly, on the other hand, was unable to afford to relax because Brennan was never going to bend from his position, regardless of what she did. It was about this time that Brennan emerged from the Metro court with a resolute expression on her face. She was not even close to being finished with Carly. It seemed as though their confrontation had, if anything, just strengthened her determination to follow through. The time had come to draw the lines of battle, and the stakes had never been higher than they were at this very moment. The struggle to save Carly's family had only started when she found herself in this situation. Despite this, Brennan's search for the truth was not even close to being finished. As it turned out, the circumstances were ideal for a confrontation that would shake Port Charles to its very foundations.